Hey, Soul Warriors. This is Jessica Noel, and I'm coming at you with season 2, episode 10 of my podcast, Uncovering Your Authentic Soulful Self. And today in season 2, episode 10, we're going to be talking about understanding and clearing distortions. So before we begin, if we can just take a moment to tune in together. If it's possible for you to close your eyes, go ahead and do so. Take a couple of deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. See if you can drop your energy from your head, from the thinking mind and the doing mind, down into the heart center, allowing the heart center to open back to front, and allowing it to expand as it opens, so that you can receive this information both mentally and spiritually from the soul self and feel its resonance. Good. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. And we'll get started on this topic. So I received a lot of information on this topic the day before, so yesterday. And as I received the information, I was quickly jotting it down, and I did not have time to speak on it at that moment. So I needed to capture the information as it came. So you'll see me looking at notes today. So sometimes I do that, and other times just speak to what comes to mind at that moment. So this is a really lovely topic. I'm really excited to be doing this today. And it really does coincide a lot with the eclipse energy that we have coming up, that we're in now, and also the eclipse energy then that culminates on the 8th on this Monday. So I needed to go ahead and get this done before the weekend so that you can have the information for those of you that might need to have this information now and as we move through the eclipse. So first I want to talk about what are distortions. So distortions are, they're, the way I like to describe distortions are they're basically this lens in which you look at life through and which you look at other people through as well. So the lens can be covered in a lot of different distortions, which are made up of limiting beliefs, of traumatic experiences and other types of experiences that you form beliefs about or that you have concepts and ideas about. And also it could be wounds, right? Wounded experiences, traumatic events, like I said. And so to some degree or another, everybody has distortions. And so the goal is to really purify and release as many distortions as you can so that the lenses that you're looking at your life through are very clear. And so they're not the dark sunglasses lens that we think of, and they're not like blue or rosy colored either. They're very clear, and we can see things as they are. We can see ourselves as we are, and we can see others as we are as well. So it's very important to become aware and understand what your distortions are as you move through your spiritual journey so that you can begin to clear those away, clearing away limiting beliefs, clearing away traumatic memories and events. And like we talked about in another episode, creating a different meaning to go with whatever that event was that your perception of is what it was, that it was traumatic. Our relationships with others, whether it be family, friends, society, also our society that we grow up in also makes up the lens that we look at life through. And so we also need to be aware of other people's distortions as well, because other people have distortions. And as we move through life, we need to understand what those distortions are so that we can navigate it properly, so that we can understand if this person is somebody that we want to have in our life experience or not, if the distortions that they have are something that we can work with. Or are something that are similar to ours, maybe too, or that you're comfortable with. So having that helps you with discernment. Is this person appropriate to have in my life? Is this somebody that I want to move through life with? So these are the types of reasons why you want to have an idea of your own distortions and understanding and clarity about others as well. And again, it's really needs to be from a non-judgmental place. So this should be through the lens of unconditional love and non-judgment as we're looking at other people. So we're not looking at, oh, look at, they have this distortion or that distortion. We're not judging it in any way. It's just more being aware of it lovingly and deciding with discernment if that person should be in our life. And if so, to what degree? I mean, that's the other thing, is that you can have people that have a distorted view of you or of other things that you're aware of, but you want to decide how close of a relationship do I want with them? and possibly in some cases, right, it's not going to be any type of relationship. So it's just important to have awareness and understanding. In addition to what I talked about, how the distortions are formed and the different types of distortions, I also want to say that there are some genetic and biological distortions also that are passed down that are different than just patterning from behavior that are passed down from parents and family. But actually, the interesting thing is that as you raise your frequency higher and higher, the biological and genetic distortions that you might have had passed down can actually change as well. So keep that in mind, because the higher frequency actually can change us and does change us at a biological, energetic level. Okay. So what do we do? So we understand now, we have a definition, a working definition of what distortions are. So now it becomes like, well, what do we do about that? It's just about becoming aware of them and working on clearing and purifying your own distortions so that your glasses are more and more clear, you're more and more aware, and you can really move through life with clarity and with a really strong sense of knowing who and what belongs in your life experience, and also who you are, and allow yourself to become a higher version of yourself by clearing these away and by getting these clear and clear glasses, right? So I also want to do like a little side note and mention that when you feel frustration or anger in a certain situation, sometimes that's actually a message to you that you have an unset or unspoken boundary. So there might be a boundary there. If you're feeling a frustration or anger in a certain situation or with a certain person, there might be a boundary you have not yet set. You might not even be aware that that's your boundary. So contemplate it. Think about, why am I feeling frustrated or angry or agitated about the situation? Maybe something that somebody's doing, or some kind of situation you find yourself in, that you keep feeling that over and over. So really look at that closely. What is that about? I've seen again and again that these are often reflections of unspoken, maybe even not yet discovered, that you need to set the boundary, or boundaries that you haven't yet communicated. So the situation keeps presenting itself over and over, and it's really not okay with you. It's really not working for you. So you really need to speak that boundary and set that boundary. Okay. So it's kind of a side note about boundaries. I had this really interesting dream that I want to explain to you, because I had the name of the podcast episode for today already. And then the very next evening, I had this very lengthy dream, which is not extremely common for me. I do have dreams a fair amount, but this was incredibly lengthy and had a lot of detailed information that I could use to talk about this topic today. So this is a really important topic today as well, with the eclipse coming up. We have the solar eclipse on the 8th, and we're really in this eclipse energy. So actually, before I go into the description of this dream and the things that we can take away from it, I want to talk about the eclipse energy just for a moment. So I woke up this morning and I had some experiences last night and this morning as well. I also got a message for a client yesterday that they were asking about a certain event. They had a prophetic dream and were concerned about something might be possibly happening. And so the information I received intuitively was that there are many potentials and probabilities right now in the midst of this eclipse season that are wildly one extreme or the other. So it's unlike other times, right? So usually there are many potentials and probabilities. That's why you'll see on my website, and I had to switch the way I was doing intuitive sessions, because things that used to be very clear potentials and probabilities, those are very much have been shifting over the last several years, to where there's so many different potentials and probabilities and so much free choice, and people are changing so much that things can really change quickly. So trying to do predictions is really not very helpful, and it also is not that accurate, because things can really change. So I started doing the predictions sometimes like, okay, the probability is this percentage, right? So for a while, and then it just became, here's what it looks like today, and that can change from these different variables. So there's so many more variables and so many more in general ways that outcomes can change. But right now during eclipse season, they're swinging wildly from one extreme to another. So for whatever reason, that kind of is the energy that it's bringing about with outcomes and things that might take place. So I also personally had some experiences of the body kind of responding, and sort of like these imbalanced kind of swings. So as I looked into that, like, well, what is this? What's happening? I got it was related to the eclipse energy. So I wanted to share that with you today. I just got that information earlier today. So for people that, and so you won't hear me talking very often. You probably haven't heard me ever talk about grounding, or very little. Don't talk much about grounding. I also don't talk a lot about astrology. I do know a little bit about astrology, but certainly I'm not an astrologer by any stretch of the imagination. But interestingly, there's a link to both. So as I tuned into what is this that's going on, and are other people going to be experiencing this as well, it was a clear yes. And so it kind of touched into both grounding and both astrology as well. So for people that are fiery, so I have a lot of fire in my astrology chart. I'm a Sagittarius with the 12 sign with 13 sign and Ophiuchus, if you're familiar with 13 sign. But let's talk about it from the 12 sign, which is what most people are aware of, the majority. So Sagittarius is fire sign, Aries is fire sign, Leo is fire sign as well. And so then we have water signs, we have earth signs, and air signs. So it started, of course, with me, since I was asking about myself, but what's going on here. So people that are fiery, they have a lot of fire in their charts, are actually going to be experiencing this to need to do a lot more grounding. So that was my solution, was a lot more heavy grounding. And as soon as I did that, I felt like a new person. So it was very interesting that it just kind of ungrounded me with my fire signs and the planets that are in that organization. So in terms of how that's affecting others, I then naturally ask the question about, well, what about other signs? So people that are air signs are going to be experiencing more of challenging experiences. So it may be that you don't experience anything at all. So keep in mind, this is like a generalization. And this is just one part of what will be, creating your unique experience, right? We all have different designs. We have unique experiences. It's not only astrology, but the most, I would say the most accurate, what felt like it was the most resonant, direct intuition I have had about how astrology works is that it's really the planetary alignments that we have individually that are pulling at us at any given time, and even in general from our birth charts. So there is definitely a magnetic and an energetic pull from these different planets, and they can create different effects. And so then with things that are happening in the here and now, those will create certain interactions. Okay. So the other thing is with earth signs, there seems to be sort of a disruption, generally speaking, in their sleep-wake cycles, and their maybe feeling more fatigued, tired than usual, or having just kind of differences in their energy. And then with water signs, it seems to be there's quite a bit of emotions coming up, and maybe a little bit of a swinging of emotions as well. Okay. So that may relate to some of you that are fire signs, earth signs, air signs, water signs. Or it could be that because your chart has a lot of other, you might have one fire sign, that might be your sun sign, but everything else is water or something else. So it might be impacting you differently. So that will apply to some of you, and it might not apply to others. But in general, for the majority of people, grounding is going to be really important. So the way that I have several different means of grounding. I like the idea of grounding into your own body. So just imagine grounding into your feet, grounding all your energy into your feet, feeling your feet on the floor. Imagine grounding that higher part of you, the soul self, into this body, into your feet. But it kind of seems like it's requiring more than that right now. And I guess it's because the eclipse is coming up. So what I've been shown to ground is actually not even through the feet, is where the grounding core that goes from the base of your spine, like basically your tailbone, it goes all the way down to the center of the earth. And then you're grounded into the center of the earth. And that actually seems to be the best way to do it right now. As soon as I did it in that particular way, then I felt like completely balanced physically. So for me, it was like a physical swinging, like it was something strange happening within the physical body. So for some fire signs, it will be a physical manifestation as your body's adjusting to the energies coming. So go ahead and do the grounding, and that will probably help a lot for you. So I wanted to offer that. And now let's go right into the dream. I might read some of this word for word so that I can make sure I can convey it in a way that it came through. So
there was this dream, and so in this dream there's this main character in the dream, right? And so I was observing the dream for a lot of the time, but then I would sort of merge. It was interesting because I like merged with the main character and then I would separate again so that I could observe. So it was like I was observing, but then I was the main character at times. And so with this main character, is like basically this main character is walking up these stairs, right? And going out into this hallway, and they can see through this door, like in one of the offices or the rooms, there's this person that's like their mate, that's their partner, and they can see them. So this main character, which I was merging with at times, they can see them, but that person can't see them. It's like they can't connect with or see them. And in addition to that, there was a sense, I didn't see images, but there was a sense that it was everything else this person was preferring to experience in their life too, like the career that they wanted, the finances they wanted, the abundance, the home, the level of happiness, the emotional well-being and those types of things. So it's like everything that they wanted was up there up the stairwell. And the only visual representation I saw was this person that was going to be their mate. But there was all these other things that were there as well that I understood that were like behind the other doors. And all at once, after seeing that, it's like you're up on the top of the stairs, you're seeing that, and there's rails on these stairs, sort of like this older looking house. And then all of a sudden there's this crumbling that starts happening. So the stairs are literally crumbling and falling away. And below there is this sort of pit of chaos. So it's like you're falling down. There's a falling downward as these stairs are crumbling into what appears to be like darkness, chaos. A lot of people as well seem to be down there. And it did not feel like a good place to want to go. And so there was kind of not becoming any choice because the stair was crumbling under this character. And so then the character, held on to these the rails of the stairs in an effort not to fall into what felt like chaos, darkness, and challenges. And of course, that wasn't effective. And so, this moment, the main character, grabbed the stair railing, the voice came from, you could describe it as like soul self or God or, source, the divine creator. The voice that came was, let me read that word for word, that surrender was required. So it's time to surrender and let the falling into what feels like darkness and chaos be, because there was no way to get to what I, or the main character, wanted. And the falling and the crumbling was actually for the highest good. It was bringing me, the main character, to exactly what I wanted. But first there had to be this falling away and this crumbling into this sort of chaos or darkness. And so then there was this, that was sort of that might not have been the speaking yet, but it was like this communication. And then there was a speaking that was saying, you are being taken to that which you desire / prefer. Things will now be gently removed from your life and new things will arrive. Do not struggle. So this is a very clear message for all of us today. So, and that's what I understood, that this dream was very much prophetic. It was very much to share with all of you. So again, I want to say it twice, okay? This is what's happening for us right now. This is what you're going to be moving through. At any point, you can choose to be born again, be born new, start a new life, move into a clean slate. At any time, you can decide that. But this season right now that we're in with eclipse energy is a beautiful time. And I actually have heard a couple people separately mention to me that they're getting kind of the same thing. It's a beautiful time, a beautiful energy to do that now. So again, it's like it can happen anytime, and you can do it even after the eclipse, or you could have done it before. But doing it now is very powerful because the energies that we're in with the eclipse season are very supportive of it, okay? And it's also quite an intensity going on too. So again, I want to read that again. So God, source, the divine, said, you are being taken to that which you desire, prefer. Things will now be gently removed from your life and new things will arrive. Do not struggle. And so then I watched this myriad of examples start to show themselves in this dream of types of struggle. And the word of God, the divine, was speaking as showing these different analogies or example. I don't want to say analogies. They were examples of not struggling, even when it looks really dire, really challenging or painful. So one of them was there was actually a pretty extreme example where there was this fly that was caught in the spider web, right? So he was definitely going to be eaten by this fire, and he was already woven up. And it was like a message for this fly: do not struggle, for you are being taken to that which you desire. And then I saw the struggle and dissatisfaction of the fly's life. So the fly being it just being sort of a challenging, hard life for this fly. And he was actually becoming a new version and a new life form. The fly was becoming a new version and a new life form. So in this dream, the way that was shown, so I'm just simply relaying how it was shown to me, was that the fly in this dying through this route, it was going to become a higher life form. So it's going to be either like a higher insect or a caterpillar or a butterfly or something that was much more I want to call it dynamic. That's the word I'm hearing. So much more dynamic and much more of a possibility for a pleasant life. And then there was a flash to the caterpillar. So the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. And like we've talked about before, the caterpillar has to sit in the goo first as it liquefies and then becomes the butterfly. And then as it becomes the butterfly, there's this huge freedom that's happening, right? Because now there's wings, and the perspective that it can have on anything has immensely increased and changed, because now it can fly and see all these things from this high perspective, and it's beautiful, and it's just the immense freedom. And then back to the human. So the human surrender, becoming the higher and stronger version of themselves. So that person who could be seen by their person, that the person that they were that was meant to be their mate, they were able to be seen. They were able to see the person wasn't able to see them. So they couldn't stay in an unhappy partnership because they knew that they were worthy of an equal one. And so that person who had the career and abundance that they deserved and the whole complete life of their dreams was like all tied into that. They first had to fall into this pit, this chaos, this darkness, to be able to become this higher version of themselves through realizing the worthiness that they contain, and that they are deserving and are going to be able to be in alignment with an equal partnership, which was basically what this person that they saw at the top of the stairs was for them. And they had to really go through this sort of moving through challenging experiences and having things removed from their life, like the unhappy relationship they were currently in and some other things, so that they could gently receive those things that they really are wanting to have. And they basically have asked God or the universe for, and this is how it's being given to them. So oftentimes, people are struggling or fighting against their own protection, right? Or their own answer to their prayers without having that awareness. So in this message, it was like they had to move in, they had to fall into that to kind of navigate their way out of it, to become the strong new version of themselves through moving through this. And I saw very clearly that it did not have to be a painful or difficult process. It could actually be very gentle and easy. And the key was that they weren't struggling. So if struggling happened, then they could not actually have this in a gentle way, because they themselves, right? So we ourselves are making this very painful and complicated the more that we struggle, or the more that we fight against the protection that we're being offered. So that was like another section of the dream, is that often we are struggling or fighting against our protection. So the divine is protecting us by either preventing us from being in a situation, a career, a job, or maybe even a relationship that is not for our highest good. But we don't understand that. So some people don't have the, or it's all people, it could be anybody, no matter how intuitive the person is. We might not have the information that this person is not right for us, that this job isn't right for us. We might be sort of blind to it. And that's where like this trust and this faith comes in. This kind of goes back again to the first episode that I ever did of this podcast, where it's like, that's your foundation. Sometimes we really have to trust blindly without really knowing, well, I don't really know why this is being taken out of my life, but I'm going to trust that it's for my highest good. So this is really a big message here, is like trust and have faith that the divine is working behind the scenes for your higher good. So in this dream, like one of the things that was shown was another example of There was the job, career example, so on, but another one about the partners, like they were trying to move towards someone actually in this dream. The main character was trying to move towards someone that was very dark, that had a very dark energy, and they were blind to it. So for whatever reason, they were blind, they didn't see it, they just had these feelings for this person, they wanted to move towards it, and it kept not lining up. And that was what was being shown in the dream, was it kept not lining up because the divine was making darn sure that that person was not going to have to be put through that type of pain and that type of challenge that would have happened if that particular relationship had come together, that particular person had ended up in their life. And again, same kind of analogy with work situation or anything else. And so don't struggle against anything, because everything, especially now with the frequency we're in, with the eclipse energy that we're having, again, things will be gently was really stressed, gently pulled out of your life. And then new things are going to be coming in. And those things are the things you've actually asked for, the things that you hold in your heart, the things that you prefer, how you want your life to look. But certain things have to leave and end so that you can receive those, to make room for those. So this, the challenge, again, like I said before, the challenge is to be blind and have blind faith, even though you can't see the part, you can't trust, you have to just trust. You can't see exactly what it is. You're divinely guided, nothing wrong has happened, and it's all being guided. So you must surrender and just allow. That also brings me to something that a friend recently said to me, and she talks about the soul will step in and take over. So during this time period, I don't know how long it's been at least 6 months, maybe a year, maybe longer. But during this time period we've been in, and probably years really now at this point is what I'm feeling in this moment as I'm speaking about it. The soul will step in and take over now, even if it's just momentarily, in order to avoid moving in the wrong direction or taking a wrong turn. So there's really no way that you can, there's really no sense in having any regrets, because that's not real. If there was something you were doing and you were moving in the wrong direction or trying to take the wrong path or move towards the wrong person, your soul would step in and not allow it. Right? So soul self would come to the forefront. Let's say it's your unconscious mind that's like running the show in that moment. Soul self will come in and do something to make it not happen or to make it happen, right? So to guide you, to make it happen, it'll be so strong you wouldn't be able to resist it. You might not even know it happened. So this might have happened to some of you. You may be aware of it, or you might not even know. But just please trust. The whole point of this is trust that everything that has happened was meant to happen. So there has been no wrong turn. So therefore there should be no regret. And that also helps you to trust more. Nothing wrong has happened. There's been no mistakes made. You are being guided, even if it looks rocky or you don't quite understand how that's working. You are being guided. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about is the next part is like, now, do we have to struggle? Because, you hear me talk a lot about challenges and struggles and being a soul warrior and fighting through these things. Question is like, do we have to struggle? No, absolutely not. We don't have to struggle. You can do this completely pain-free through just making choices, trusting, surrendering. The more you surrender and just allow, and you don't try to fight against things happening, the easier this is going to be, the happier, the more joyful you're going to be, and the easier life is going to become, and the more things will flow to you. It'll just increase exponentially as you allow and surrender. So you absolutely do not need to struggle. This can be pain-free. But the reason why I talk a lot about, the struggle and the challenges and so on is because something called the gene keys. So my design in gene keys has a lot to do with struggle, has a lot to do with turbulence. So one of my, so gene keys, you can look it up. So it's GENE, genekeys.com. We are starting 2 groups for the spring quarter here that we're beginning at the Center for New Life. So I'm doing one group on the gene keys, and it'll probably be on the weekend, likely on a Saturday. And Deborah is doing another one on a Monday evening. So please join either of our groups. We're going to be presenting it differently. Our groups will be different. Mine will be talking through the gene keys, but then we're also going to do some energetic things to lift us out of the shadow state. So we're going to do some activations to lift us out of that, to support the process. And also I'll help you to make sure that you're moving through it in a way that's does not include self-reproach, that is very much like a self-love type of way, so that you feel Gene Keys takes you into your shadow, right? So these spheres, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but these spheres are showing your shadow. You're in the same one that's a shadow as you raise it to a higher frequency through your awareness and just through the alchemy of life as you're becoming aware and contemplating. And then it can move up to the siddhi, which is the highest level, the highest frequency. So it's a beautiful concept that within your shadow lies your greatest gifts. And so you basically put in your date of birth data. It uses combinations of human design, of astrology, of the Tao Te Ching, and a couple other unique things to really bring together something that I have found highly accurate. And those that are in sort of my circle have also worked through it, many of them, and they found it highly accurate as well. So basically, you can go to the website, you can get your unique profile by entering your birth data. Then you'll get a set of spheres, I think they call it a hologenetic profile or something like that. And so the first one we're going to work through is the activation sequence. So please keep an eye on that. It's going to be posted. It's going to start, I think, in April. Mine might start more like in May. Hers is going to start in April, I believe. But we're both going to be offering it for whoever is guided to which one and what will work with their schedule. So for my Gene Keys, I have one would be turbulence that I have. So if any of you end up looking at your profile and you see that you have turbulence as the shadow, that one's my purpose. My purpose is to move from the shadow of turbulence to compassion. And they talk a lot about Jesus in there. And I've talked a lot about Jesus as well. So compassion is the gift in that particular sphere that cannot be earned, that cannot be received anyway, but through earning it, through going through turbulence after turbulence until you move into this place of just immense compassion and love, unconditional love for all. And then the interesting thing is they talk about how people that have that as a prominent part in their sphere often go and bring people into the darkness to find their light. So that's also why you might hear me talking about that. So again, I'm designed differently, right? Other people teach differently and they have different focuses based on their design. So this is one way that you can use to move through your shadows and clear your distortions through moving through the Gene Keys, and to move into the gift state in all of them, as you work through them. Okay, so let me look here. So again, when you're looking at others and you're seeing, you're using discernment and boundaries, but you're still loving all parts of them and non-judgmentally doing so. So it's really important to see through people. And that's what ends up happening with a lot of these particular spheres that I and others have. You can see through people. I've heard people say that it looks like they feel like they're naked in front of me. I had somebody say that yesterday, and I'm like, well, that's okay though, because I'm not judging you. It's fine for you to be naked, And they said, I know, I can feel that. Just a client that said that. And so it's very healing when you can look at somebody. So all of us can do that. It doesn't matter what our Gene Keys are, right? Looking at somebody and you're seeing all parts of them. You're seeing their soul self. You are still seeing their wounds or their distortions, but you're loving all of it. And that's incredibly healing and incredibly powerful for them. And then also for you. So try to see through people, see them fully, and love them with zero judgment. Okay. So next part I want to talk about is something called the miracle prayer. So I'm going to look that up. That was something that I was really strongly guided to say today. So I'll look it up and I'll post it in the comments so that you can read that miracle prayer. Use the miracle prayer now. It's a really good one to use because please keep in mind, especially during the season, like I talked about in the beginning, this eclipse season, this is a beautiful time to know that you are completely absolved. So spirit wants, this is part of my dream and what, spirit with divine God had guided me to share with you today. You are completely absolved. So please forgive yourself for anything that you've ever done. It doesn't matter how big or how small it was. Forgive yourself and also forgive others for anything they've ever done. It is time more than ever now to clear the slate. Clear the slate. Stop holding on to anything. Who are you? I said this last night. Who are you to not forgive yourself? When the divine forgives you and you're completely absolved of anything that's ever happened, don't hold on to yourself. You're standing in your own way, right? This is another example of struggling when you're trying, God, the divine is trying to give you something, give you absolution. Here, you are forgiven. You have a clean slate opportunity. Go ahead and do that and forgive others. And so you're basically coming into a new life, right? You're clearing everything away, clean slate. You're being born again, new life. This is a beautiful opportunity to do that. And there's, like I said, there's extra energy than usual to be able to do this. Okay, the next topic under distortions is I want to explain to you, let me check the time for us. Okay. I want to explain to you that there's thousands of versions of you that exist in the lens and distortions of others. So say that again. There's thousands of versions of you that exist about who others think that you are. So it's through their lens they're looking at you from. And they're all different than the one that you think. So the one that you believe, who you believe you are, is going to be different than who everybody else believes you are. We all have different lenses that we're looking at through. So therefore, there's thousands of versions of you that exist in the minds of others. And so what you want to do with that is like, what are these distortions? You know, what are the ones that these people around me have? How are they seeing me? And I had a friend that revealed her distortion about me in conversation. It was really just one sentence, and it was like, whoa, that's not accurate at all. And so I remember that very clearly because I'd known her for many years and I thought we knew each other very well. But that sentence really about something that I went through, like a shadowy aspect I went through many years ago, as I was moving through it very, very well, really considering. And her perception of what was happening was just very inaccurate. So it's very interesting for me to have that window. So pay attention to what people say when you're in conversation. I was able to get a very clear window glimpse into the way she viewed me and how distorted that was based on actually the way that most people viewed me and the way I viewed myself. So that didn't mean that I had to not be friends with her. It just meant that I had to be aware of that and act accordingly, right? So you're probably going to want to have friends and people around you, loved ones, friends, you know, people that you choose to be in a relationship with. You're probably going to want to have them have at least an equal perspective and belief about you that is similar to yours, right? So you want it to be at least equal. Like if you have a certain level of confidence and belief about who you are in at a soul level and what you're meant to do in the world, you want to have a friend that's thinking about it at least in an equal way and maybe even in a higher way, which is really beautiful. So if you can find somebody, a friend, or even somebody that you know you could work with at more of a professional level that can see you your soul self before you even can. So if they can hold that vision of how powerful and how magnificent you are before you become that, that is actually going to bring you to that much faster. It's like it helps to speed your path towards that because they're holding that and that's bringing it forth. So it's kind of like they're seeing that statue of David inside the marble, like I talked about before, and they're bringing it forth. So it's like they're magnetizing it to come forth faster and faster and faster. So what a beautiful gift to have someone that loves, that can see who you are, can love that unconditionally and really help it to bring forth, to come forth. And now the people that aren't seeing that they're highly distorted. You start to discover maybe they have a highly distorted view of you. Something that you might have to do sometimes that can be helpful is actually calling it out and setting it straight. And that might look like I've said before, nope, that's not me. So it was somebody that was highly distorted. And I was aware of that and I wasn't judging it, but that was just my response in this communication. Oh, that's not me. So whoever they were seeing me as that's not at all who I was. It was very distorted, very opposite in a lot of ways. So calling it out can be very helpful and that can work sometimes. It can be very powerful. So you alone, though, doing the new version of you, they are going to, as they see your behavior align with who you just said you were, or maybe you called it out, you might call it out and that might be the end of it, or maybe it's that you're going to continue to be around them. So you're also showing them by your words and your behaviors that you are this higher version of yourself. So they're going to do one of two things. As you say it and as they see it, one or the other or both, they're going to have to allow that to break the concept they have of who they think you are. That's going to have to crumble and break. And then they're going to have to form a new version of who they think you are. So they're going to have to actually, in order to cope with that dissonance that they now have because of what you said to them or what you're showing them or both, they are going to have to either resolve the dissonance by allowing that to crumble and then to form a new belief. And that's the way forming new beliefs can work too. But in this case, let's stay on the distortions. The other thing they're going to do is for some people that aren't really in a place where they can do that, maybe they don't have the capacity to, or maybe they're kind of stubbornly resisting. That can happen too, stubbornness and resistance. The other thing they can do is they can refuse to form a new version of who they think you are. And they just get so confused by what they just saw and what's going on that they just stay away from you and they just exit your life. And they just basically walk away. So, one example of a distortion could be a toxic mother energy. So that's kind of a strong wording. Maybe we should word that differently. A mother energy that someone embodies who kind of is trying to treat everyone like they know, they are very sure that they know the truth about things and they're telling everyone. So they're teaching from more of a like motherly, trying to mother everybody. And it's a toxic type of pattern though, because it should be a sisterhood or a brotherhood. So if you have someone in your life that's trying to do a toxic mother energy or even a toxic father energy, you need to really think about that, because if they're doing that, remember how we talked with the narcissistic patterning, that there's the puzzle pieces that fit together. So if you were ever in a narcissistic relationship, you have the opposite puzzle piece that fit together. So you can do your work, and then as you heal it and evolve, that won't be there anymore. But with the toxic mother energy, it's the same thing. So basically, if you're not part of that puzzle piece, where you're not the wounded daughter, right? So if you don't have mother issues, if you cleared those away and healed those, and you're not a wounded daughter, then you're not going to involve yourself with a toxic mother. So it's really important for you to have sisterhood relationships, brotherhood relationships, even if there's an age discrepancy. There's a lot of people that I interact with, and we're all in the sisterhood kind of energy, where there's not any type of hierarchy. You don't want to have a hierarchy, because that's not healthy. That's a distortion. Okay. So if you have a hierarchy, there's going to be a time if you keep growing and evolving, where you're going to pop out of that mother energy, out of that, the puzzle piece where you've got the toxic mother energy, unhealthy mother energy, and you've got the wounded child. So if you pop out of the wounded child, then that person that was doing sort of this unhealthy mother pattern, they're going to either have to figure out how to interact with you differently and set up a new dynamic, which can happen with some people, especially if they're also on the spiritual path. No judgments if somebody has unhealthy or toxic mother energy, and also no judgments for somebody that has the corresponding puzzle piece, right? We don't even choose those. They just kind of happen to us. And then based on wiring and patterning that we didn't choose usually, or experiences. And then we take responsibility and we unravel that, and then it's cleared, right? Then we can move out of it. But anyway, when you pop out of it, then they either have to stop having you in your life because they can't figure out how to interact with you in a new way, or they're not really ready to move out of the unhealthy mother energy, or they will find a new way to interact with you. So that means that they had to form a new concept of who you are, because no longer are you the wounded son or wounded daughter. They now have to see you as, oh, they're this other version of themselves now. Okay. Good. So it's a rare person, but they do exist, and more are coming online, where they can see the best in you, even while you are processing your shadows. So even while you're going through like your hardest times and challenges, they are seeing the best in you. They are seeing your soul self and holding that energy for you. So to support you while you're processing that. And you might not be able to see any of that, but they're seeing it and supporting you. So, they're so loving and kind, but they're also calling out. So this person can see that the best in you while you're going through the worst, most challenging times in your shadows. Perhaps you might have already experienced this. They're loving and kind, but they also call out your distortions, and they show you and point to you where your transformation is needed. So they show, hey, these are your distortions, and they'll call it out for you. They can support you on your path. So if you have anybody like that, you're very blessed. You can seek that out. A lot of us at the center, I think, can hold that space for you. I've been told that I hold that space for you. So we're thrilled that I can do that. And I strive to do that. That's like one of my roles, right? Is to love you unconditionally and hold that space for you. I was lucky enough to have that, and I still have that person in my life. So she has always been able to love me unconditionally and also call those out. And I've had other people that I've talked before about my teacher who's in spirit now, and he always loved me unconditionally, no matter what. It didn't matter. And he never judged me. He always loved me unconditionally. And that was incredibly powerful, no matter what, to have that unconditional love and that spiritual support. And this friend that I'm talking about, she was able to do both, because being able to be called out, that just wasn't his role, but being able to be called out and I wanted to be called out, I would call her and say, what's going on? I can't quite see this clearly. And so people come to me with the same thing, right? So I was able to have that, and you can have that in me and in other practitioners in the center, I believe, can hold that space for you too. And maybe you'll get it from a friend or family member too, okay? And another thing is keep in mind that you don't know how, okay, this is maybe a little bit of a funny switching topic. Keep in mind that you don't know how dirty you are until you see the residue in the bathtub. So if you think about like child bathing, like I had an experience with my child telling me he's not dirty, he's not, and he bathed, and then I came back, hey, come and look at the bathtub. You were trying to resist a bath, you didn't think you were dirty, now come and look at the bathtub. And he certainly didn't appear dirty, right? So the bathtub had residue in it. And that's the way it is. You don't see it until it's highlighted in the white, right? In the residue. And that's what happens when you're in the presence of high frequency. So that's sometimes like just what we're in the collective. Other times it's like in a group that you go to that's in a really high frequency, like a healing group or some sort of event like that happens to have a lot of high frequency people, or maybe the event itself is high frequency. The other thing that can happen is like I was talking about, like somebody that's a spiritual master or a very high frequency individual, having an interaction with them can bring up things that you thought you might have cleared long ago. But please understand that those things are coming up because that's what you're supposed to be clearing the rest of the way. So sometimes it's easy to feel like a little bit of disappointment. Oh man, I thought I was done with that. But please don't, because it's just a little bit, think of it like a little speck that you haven't yet cleared, or even an imprint from what you've already worked on. So that's valid. You've already done all the work, but this was just another little piece that needed to move the rest of the way out. Okay. So high frequency individuals, analogy to the white bathtub, or high frequency situations or energies can bring those up very rapidly so that you can see what that is and release it. Okay. So I want to mention with that dream that I had, where we were talking a lot about like, gently things will be removed from you. So this is going to include, friendships or relationships, maybe even job, career things. So different things will be removed from your life. So do your best not to struggle. So you probably already experienced some of that. So keep doing your best not to struggle, because more things are going to be removed from your life, because we're meant to become this highest version of ourselves. Okay. And something interesting that came in for me to say as I was writing this, it was if a friend had to leave due to the fact that they were unable to settle who you were and who you were showing yourself to be, that example that we gave before, they may not be able to move into understanding and forming a new concept of who you actually are based on what you're showing them. They might have to leave your life, right? They just kind of get confused and walk away, or a relationship or anything else. Lovingly hold the door open for them is like a good way to think about it. Like, okay, lovingly hold the door open for them. Let them leave your life. Do not struggle. They're supposed to if they're leaving. Okay. It's for your highest good. And understand that new people will be guided and new is coming. So in any situation, anything that's trying to exit your life right now or anytime coming soon, allow it. Hold the door open, loving for it to leave, knowing hold the door lovingly for it to leave, knowing that what it's going to be replaced with is exactly what you've been asking for and dreaming of. This is the life of your dreams that will be being created, but there has to be some things removed first, right? To make room for them. So things are being removed gently, lovingly. Do not struggle. Allow, hold the door lovingly for them to leave, and open the door lovingly for the new to come in. Okay. Also, when you raise your frequency quickly, people might have a hard time comprehending you. So you might experience that. I've had clients and myself too, where we moved up so quickly and became the newer version of ourselves multiple times over, maybe in a very short amount of time for some of us, that it's like the people have to really adjust to it. And so for a while, they might literally not be able to comprehend you, right? So if you're resonating up here and they're resonating more like here, then they're probably not going to be able to, they can hear your words and they're trying to communicate with you, they're probably not going to be able to comprehend it. So if you start to feel like someone's not able to understand what you're saying and the comprehension isn't there, either you or them have moved up so quickly that either they need to sort of entrain to you and move up to your level so that you can they can hear it. Well, actually, that's the only way, right? Because we talked last time about you don't ever want to come down here. That's not good for anybody. Keeping your vibration here, your frequency here will help them to entrain and they'll come up, right? So just give it time. Or maybe it's a example of them needing to leave your lights, and that will become clear either through their behavior that you decide that is now no longer a fit for your life experience, or maybe it's just natural that they move away from you. Okay. So again, hold the vision of others of who they really are, and then they can begin to journey towards that much easier. And again, seeing through people, but loving them with no judgment. So seeing all of them, all parts of them, their soul self, their beauty, their gifts, everything that they're offering, but also looking at it like, what are their distortions, right? So that you could become aware of that and love them with zero judgment. Last part, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. Okay. Some people believe that there are versions of you in different dimensions in reality. And that is actually accurate for some of us. But some people also believe that so strongly that they'll speak it with a very clear confidence and knowing and experience, because that's their lens. That's how they know that, because they've had direct experiences. But that's not the case for everybody. And as we move forward, it's also not going to continue to be the case. Okay. So we are all part of this ascension, or those of us that are part of the ascension is what I mean, that are really like taking it in and we're moving up, we're on the spiritual path. So if you're listening to this and you want to be the absolute highest version of you, you have to come into a single focal point. Okay. So basically what happens is the idea that you exist in different timelines, parallel universes, different dimensions is accurate and has always been accurate historically. But some people have already experienced this event where all of the timelines, all these realities of you collapse into one focal point, which is you now. So you're basically bringing all those timelines in, they're collapsing all those versions of you into a single focal point, which is you here and now on this earth plane. So that's actually part of the ascension path. So some people might have already experienced that. Maybe they didn't know, but they feel different. They're in this high frequency. A lot of people have experienced it and they knew they did. And maybe there's a little like disorientation as it happens. You can also accidentally create a new timeline by having a very intense emotion during going through something challenging, perhaps. So that can create a bleed through, especially if there's strong emotions. If you have a bleed through, I've had that before. I've had clients that have had that. It can be very disorienting. So you have to really ground yourself and know what it is. So if you're having a bleed through, like you're feeling like you're experiencing this other reality, it can be very disoriented, or you're having these emotions that something happened to someone in this reality. It actually didn't happen, but it feels like it did. Both of those things can be signs. If you want more on that, message me, we can talk more thoroughly, or just come to a session. We can talk through that. Sometimes that happens. And then that is the moment where you're like, okay, I got to go into meditation, or I need to see somebody to get support with this. And then what will happen is that you'll have support in collapsing those timelines and coming to a single focal point. But right now, with the energy we're in, just set that as your intention, that you want to bring all of your energy and all of the different parts of you from all the different versions of you from all the different realities and dimensions into a single focal point. Then what happens is it becomes part of your unified field. So so they didn't dissolve into you and they didn't like die or collapse. They all merged, right? It's a merging. So now it's part of your unified field, and you are all of that. So you now have become all of that, and you're holding all of that in your field. So just set an intention that is, if that resonates with you, set an intention that you want this collapse of timelines, when it's in your highest good, to kind of all merge together, all the versions of you into the single focal point, so that you can carry all of that in your energy field. That's where we're headed. Okay. So these events that have taken place, I said, that could be kind of upsetting, panicky, it could create panic or distortion. It's just to make you aware. If you have a bleed through moment, just to make you aware of it, and then intentionally choose to collapse it in all of the others, so that it can come into this focal point, so that you can be all of that. You can embody all of that in this time space. And then you can really support yourself and others and the whole collective by carrying that high frequency of the unified field of all dimensions, all universes, all versions of yourself. And it's just going to be natural. You can hold the intention for that, set the intention, but it will come naturally at the right time for you. And for some people, it might not come. They might be supposed to continue to coexist with all the dimensions. So you have to understand, you have to expand your reality and understand that your experience and what you're going through is not what other people are going to go through, right? So I speak to you from my experience, and I tend to speak from, as best I can, from understanding that we're all designed differently. So we're all having different paths and experiences. So what is true for the people that feel like everything, multiple versions of them exist, that's probably is accurate for them, but it's not accurate for everybody. Okay, so try to expand your vision of everybody, right? So understand there's different distortions, different lenses they're looking through, but there's also different essences they have. And like we talked about, astrological designs and all of that, and that all influences it. So just non-judgmentally understand we're all having different types of experiences, and we're all meant to, right? And some of us are having very similar experiences. So go with what resonates with you and what will help to support you on your individual unique path. So I really want to encourage you as you move forward and you listen to people who speak very with a lot of authority and a lot of knowing, where it's like they're saying something that's a fact. Listen with your soul self, with your heart center. Feel whether it resonates with you or not, okay? Just because someone's speaking with great authority doesn't mean what they're saying is accurate. It might be accurate, it might be completely inaccurate and distorted. It might be accurate to them and some other people, but it might not be accurate for you. So listen, you'll know, because you use your intuition. Allow your intuition to take the lead and feel whether that resonates for you or not. Don't just take it in because they're speaking with authority, or even you respect and appreciate them. Your soul self knows. Let your intuition and your feeling guide you of resonance or lack of resonance, okay? You know your truth. Your soul self knows what's best for you far more than anybody or anything else. There are people that can support and guide you on the way, but ultimately you have to tune in and ask yourself and feel whether something's resonating or not. Okay, that's the ultimate goal. So I want to say it again. The solar eclipse is a great time to choose to be born again and to be free. And the last thing I want to leave you with before we close for today is that there is no substitute for strength. So I had somebody speak that. I heard them speak that the other day, and they were talking about the physical body and healing the physical body. And, if there was like a sports injury or some kind of wound, and there's no substitute for strength is what they said. So you can do all these stretches, you can do all this stuff, you can get in perfect alignment, and you can learn like different movements and so on. There's no substitute for strength. So I loved hearing that, because what that told me is on the spiritual path, as you're growing personally, emotionally, and spiritually, there's no substitute for strength. Okay? No substitute for strength. The strength is something that often will be acquired along the way through wisdom and knowledge, through experiences, and sometimes you have to use the alchemy of life. Your challenges, the things you go through, your experiences will build strength for you. There is no substitute for strength. So just like in the physical body, strength takes time to develop, one way or the other. Maybe you had a trauma and then you started having to get stronger physically. Or maybe you just like, I want to get stronger physically. So it could be through choice, it could be through experiences. But the point is that strength takes time to build. And then you either maintain it or you continue to get stronger. There's no substitute. So you want to be, so on the spiritual path, another analogy would be like, you can learn all these techniques, you can have all this spiritual wisdom, you can read all these books, but there's no substitute for strength. It has to be paired with strength. And you are strong, and you're getting stronger all the time. You're a warrior. And I love you. And so I would like to go ahead and wrap up today. So go ahead and take a moment and close your eyes if that's possible for you. Take a couple of deep breaths. Okay, now I want you to actually focus on the top of your head. I want you to see if you can visualize your divine lines, like a cord that goes all the way up. It might even look like a sun if you keep following it up. Mend it along the way if you need to. So you're kind of shooting up through your crown to your North Star, to the higher part of your soul. And then allow that to spill down into the crown, your open crown chakra, the top of your head, and through your whole body, down your arms, out your palms, out the bottoms of your feet. Really ground it into your feet. Feel yourself anchored gently with this cord going down from the base of your spine to the center of the earth, carrying this high frequency of your highest part of your soul, and being grounded to the earth. Please remember to be light, be loving, be non-judgmental, be free. Wake up every day choosing to be the best version of yourself. Open your eyes. Be ready. Wake up every day and choose. It's a choice to become the best version of yourself, to embody that, and to make a difference, to be the change that the earth needs, and to make a difference in this world. Being loving, being non-judgmental, supportive, and doing good. So I've so enjoyed connecting with you today. I hope you enjoy the eclipse energy. Remember that the energy of the eclipse is most important, not actually seeing it. You don't need to see it to receive. And I will so look forward to seeing you the next time. Bye for now.